bookish friends, I hope you're well. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. It's time for another video, and it's time for my end of year wrap up, where I'm going to go through all of my reading stats for 2024. I'm going to do some honourable mentions of my books that didn't quite make it to 5 stars, but I still really enjoyed them, and I wanted to give them a little honourable mention. And then I'm going to go through my goals for 2025. So, first and foremost, my reading goal for 2024 was 110 books. I am quite happy to say that I smashed that by reading 193 books. Yes, I was 7 away from 200. I slumped hard for at least, I'd say, at least a quarter of the year of 2024. I think April and May were big slumpy months for me, and then I'd probably say November and December. Although I did read I did read a lot of books in December. I read 19 books in total, but I was still slumping, and that could have been a lot more. That could have actually been my best reading month. But because of how busy I was and how slumpy I was, I just didn't make it. I wanted to hit that 200, but I just didn't do it. And it's not the end of the world. I'm still really proud of what I managed to read. And I just want to quickly say, I'm aware that 193 books is crazy, and that's a lot of books. I've been a reader for many years now, and I consume books in lots of different ways, as we're going to talk about as we go through the video. But I am quite a fast reader as well, and it doesn't matter how many books you read. Even if it's one book, if you just read one book this year, that's fantastic. That is fantastic, and I am proud of you. Whether you read 5, whether you read 20, whether you read 200, 300. Listen, girlies, I'm proud of you, okay? People, I'm proud of you, all right? I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to put that out there. But back to my statistics. So yeah, I read 193. Now, my pages read in total was 64,226 pages. Obviously, this is the most I have ever read in the span of a year. Interestingly enough, earlier on I worked it out. In the first 6 months of the year, I read 90 books, and then in the second 6 months, I read 103. I don't know why you'd want to know that, but I just thought I'd share it. My average rating, according to Goodreads, is 3.8. Obviously, that's not accurate. It's been my average for quite a long time. 3.8 seems to be my average. If you go back on all of my previous years on Goodreads, but obviously Goodreads doesn't count the half stars, so I don't actually know what my average really is. Anyway, I thought I would break it down for you how I consumed these 193 books. Now, I do audiobooks, I do ebooks, and I obviously do physical books from my TBR. So this year I got through 47 audiobooks. Probably for the first I'd say at least 4 or 5 months of the year, I was still listening at normal one-time speed. And then I realised that I actually was able to speed it up, and I now listen at 1.5. I know there's loads of people that can do 2, 2.5, 3. No, I couldn't do that. 1.5 is where I'm comfortable. But yeah, I love listening to audiobooks. And for me, I'm still consuming the story, so it counts. Not getting into a debate about that. Anyway, then ebook. My ebook total for the year was 66. So I read 66 ebooks. Now, my ebooks come from Kindle Unlimited and my BorrowBox library app. All my audio books as well also come from the BorrowBox library app. That's the only place where I listen to the audios. And then my physical books, the total physical books I read for the year was 80, which I'm really pleased about. Now, the books that I read from my physical TBR, that were on my physical TBR, whether that was by audio, ebook or physical, was a total of 81. And books that I read that were not on my TBR, so these were books that I've just found and liked the look of and decided to read, was 112. So I do need to try and rein it in a bit and try and read more from my actual physical TBR, because my physical TBR is actually still quite out of control. On that note, let me just flip back and I'll explain. So my TBR total in January 2024, I had to work this out later on down the line, because I didn't actually do my physical TBR video until March. And I actually got that number wrong. Anyway, my total in January 2024 would have been 298 books. I then proceeded to add, I was in a book buying ban for most of the year, but I broke that ban twice. Once in May for the month of my birthday, and then once, I think it was like a month or two after. I just ended up, I think I had a voucher left over, and then I ended up getting the bug, and I just went a bit crazy. And in those two instances, now not all of these, by the way, were bought by myself. Quite a few of these were gifted to me as well. And some of these that I added on were actually books that were my daughter's that she no longer wanted. But I was like, do you know what? I'll take that because I fancy reading that. So that's where all of the books come from. But I ended up adding 78. Yeah. Which meant my actual TBR total for 2024 was 376. Yeah, crazy, I know. I had 9 DNFs from my physical TBR. There was probably, I don't know, maybe I'd say 5 or 6 other DNFs from books that were not on my physical TBR, but I didn't really pay attention to them, if I'm being honest. I'm going to do better this year in 2025 with keeping track of my DNFs. But yeah, I DNF'd 9 from my physical TBR, and I unhauled 13 books in the end, completely unread. So I was like, I don't even want to read them. I've had them for too long, whatever, they're going. So I unhauled 13 of them. So with the DNF, the unhaul, and then the 81 books that I read in total from my physical TBR, my new total for 2025 is 273. Not bad. We got a little bit off, a little chunk, and now this year we gotta sort it out. But we'll get back to that shortly, as part of my goals. So back to my stats. Books rated 5 stars. I had 29 in total. Technically I had 30, but one of them was a reread. So I didn't really want to include that. So I had 29 new 5-star reads for 2024. I'm going to brush over this very quickly because I'm probably going to do a separate video. It's needed. How many series did I start in 2024? 46. 46. Why? I don't know. I don't know why I did that. We'll go into that, as I said, separately. The series, how many series did I complete in 2024? Now, these were not, obviously, this includes series that I started this year, but all the other series that I was also already in the middle of. In total, I completed 21 series. And then finally, genres. I've split it into genres just because I like to see. But my most read genre of 2024, surprise, surprise, was thriller. And I read 64 thriller books. Thriller, mystery, that kind of genre. Romance books was my next one, and I read 57 romance books. Then we have fantasy, and I read a total of 34 fantasy books. Then I've put the category as other, because these are books that I just didn't know what category they actually fell into, and I couldn't be bothered to try and work it out. So the other category, we had 22 books. And then my final category that I tend to read quite a lot of, minus the other 3, is middle grade, and I read 16 middle grade books. So yeah, those are all my kind of statistics for 2024. I've done a completely separate video of my 5-star, all of my 5-star reads for the year. That's probably going to have gone up before this video, so you would have seen all of my 5-star reads already. But I wanted to do a couple of honourable mentions, and these were books. Some of them I've clumped together as like series, but these were the ones in particular that I just wanted to mention because I loved them, I had a great time, but they didn't quite give me the 5-star feeling. So the first one is Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. This was actually, I don't remember, I think I might have read this first. This was my first ever cowboy romance. I think I read this before I even attempted to read anything of Elsie Silver. And I loved this. I absolutely loved it, and I gave it a 4.5, and I'm really excited to read the rest of the Rebel Blue Ranch series, especially now that I've read all of Chestnut Springs. I just want more cowboy romance, so sign me up. The next one that I had to give an honourable mention to, this was a duology, and I gave both of these books 4.5 stars, and it's the Invisible duology. So we've got Invisible and Unsolved, and these are by James Patterson and David Ellis. These were just fast-paced, and I just loved them. Classic kind of James Patterson vibes, and I do tend to mostly enjoy the ones that he does with David Ellis. I think I've read a few of them now. This one we follow Emmy. She is an FBI analyst, kind of like Penelope Garcia from Criminal Minds. So she's not an agent, she is an analyst. She works with computers, and she tracks serial killers. That's what she does. And in the first one, she has managed to find this serial killer that is going completely under the radar. Nobody knows that he's out there. Nobody knows that he's committing these crimes because he's covering them up that well. But she has found him, and we follow her trying to catch this killer and convince everyone around her to believe her. phenomenal. First one and second one, really, really enjoyed and would highly, highly recommend. The next one that I had to give a little mention to, this was just really cute and I just had a good time. It didn't quite give me that 5-star feeling, but I did really enjoy it, and that was Night Shift by Annie Crown. I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would, and it was just really, really cute. College romance, new adult, lovely. Then the next one, so I wanted to mention this as a whole. So I think I've read 3 of them this year. I think there might be a 4th one coming out in 2025. I'm not 100% sure. But this is the Lake District series by Jessica Redland. I will try and pop all 3 of them up here. And these were all, again, between like 4.5 stars. And they're all set on the Lake District. They are interconnected stories. You do need to read them in order because we kind of continue. Each one kind of picks up the next character, but each, like, you'll see what I mean if you read them. They're all kind of connected, and it's just a beautiful little setting and found family. You know, these women are starting over, and these are cute love stories, but there is a few little elements. There's some serious kind of topics as well, but they're just done really well, and I just eat them up, and they just get better and better. So I had to give them a little honourable mention. The next one, now I started this series in 2023, and then I finished it in 2024. I think I listened to all of these on audio, and the audio narrator is phenomenal. This is what made me realise that I could listen to audiobooks, and that actually I really enjoyed them. And this is the Rivers of London series by Ben Aronovich. There are 9 in total. I think I did at least 4 or 5 of them in 2024. And I gave every single one in this series either 4 or 4.5. So it's a very highly rated series for me. I absolutely love them. Love the characters. It's urban fantasy. It's set in London. And our main character, Peter Grant, is just phenomenal. The next one that I had to mention is Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. I gave this one 4.5. This one made me feel physically ill at times. And I don't want to go to IKEA ever again. This one was really fun, and the book was set out so different. It's literally like holding an IKEA catalogue, and it was just, as much as it was like horror, and it was obviously meant to be scary as well, it was, it's very kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's fun horror. And I just love Grady Hendrix. I just love his writing and everything. I think I've given him, he's had 2 5 stars and 2 4.5 stars off of me so far. And I'm excited. I've got one more of his, and then his new one is coming out in January, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, I think, something like that. So yeah, I had to give it a little honourable mention because I really enjoyed it. Then I also had to shout out the reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. I loved Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I thought that series just got better and better as it went along. The 3rd one is my favourite, unpopular opinion, I know. And I was really looking forward to this one. I've not read 5 Survive. Don't fancy it. I've seen really mixed reviews on it, and I probably won't pick it up. But this one, I was like, yeah, this sounds more up my street. This is the vibe that I want. And I gave this one 4.5. It didn't give me a 5-star feeling, and our main character, Belle, she really got on my nerves. So that was why I lowered it. But I did really, really enjoy it, and I would highly recommend, and I'm looking forward to what else Holly Jackson brings us. The next one I had to mention is Taken, which is part of the Max Wolf series. This is by Tony Parsons. This is the 6th book, I think, in this series that I've read, and it was phenomenal. Sorry, I'm still recovering from a cold and talking, just, yeah, anyway. Yeah, this one, again, these are kind of, I would recommend reading them in order. These are all set in London. We follow Max Wolf. He is a detective and he just gets into all sorts of bloody trouble. I just absolutely devour these books, and this one was fantastic, and I gave it 4.5 stars, and it was really fast paced. And there's another one coming out in January, and this is the first one I think he's brought out in a while, so I'm really excited for it. Next one I had to give a shout out to, again I gave this one 4.5, was Ask for Andrea by Noel W. Healy. I don't know how to say your surname, I'm so sorry. But this was so different, and I just really enjoyed it, and it just made me, again, it was kind of like being in an episode of Criminal Minds, and very heavy topics. You need to check your trigger warnings, but I just thought this was really original and I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4.5. I did try to read another one by this author, and it was the writing is good, but that particular story that I was reading, I didn't like where it was going, and I ended up DNFing it. I don't think I'll pick it up. There was nothing wrong with the story, just at the time it was just too much for me, and I just couldn't do it. And I knew it was based on like a true story as well, so I just didn't want to. But I would like to pick up some other stuff from this author, because their writing was fantastic. Next one I have to mention is Off to the Races by Elsie Silver. Obviously I read the whole Chestnut Springs series. This is her Gold Rush Ranch series, so this came before Chestnut Springs, and I think I read this one again before I started the Chestnut Springs series, because in my head I was like, oh, I'll read that series first and then I'll do Chestnut Springs, but then I couldn't wait anymore. So I read the first one and I gave that one 4 stars, and I really enjoyed it. Not as much as Chestnut Springs, but I'm intrigued to see the rest of this series and if they kind of get better and better, or if they're all going to be 4 stars the way that Chestnut Springs was all 5 stars for me. I'm intrigued to see. Then I want to do a quick mention to Butcher and Blackbird and Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver. I gave both these 4 stars. Really, really enjoyed these. These were, again, something so different. They were the first one was really comical and sweet, even though it's about 2 serial killers that fall in love. The trigger warnings are huge in these books at the front. Please check them. I wasn't obviously put off by those trigger warnings. I loved both couples, but I think I felt a little bit more connected to Lark, to Lachlan and Lark, than I did to Rowan and Sloane. But I gave them both 4 stars and I really enjoyed them, and I'm really excited for the third and final one to come out this year. The next one I had to do a little mention to was Love Story by Lindsay Kelk. This was my first Lindsay Kelk experience, and I gave it 4.5. The main character, she annoyed me a little bit. Some of the decisions that she made, the way she spoke to people sometimes. The male main character, again, he annoyed me a little bit at the beginning as well. But other than that, this was fantastic. And I just loved the plot. And I just loved her writing. I listened to the audio of this. And I'm excited to read more from Lindsay Kelk this year. I also had to do a shout out to Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. I gave this one 4 stars. It was a little slow to begin with, but once we got into the plot, I just ate it up. Absolutely ate it up. And I loved the side characters. I loved the subplot of romance, and I'm just excited to see where we're going to go with this one. Then I have read 2 books. This is a trilogy. There are currently only 2 books out. I've read both of those books in 2024. I'm now waiting for the third and final one to come out. This is the Lost Bride trilogy by Nora Roberts. This is my first experience of Nora Roberts. I've listened to both of these on audio, and I absolutely love the audio. I love the plot. I love the characters. We've got a love, it's a love story, it's a romance story, but the main plot, there's this mystery, and our main character inherits this old house out in Maine, beautiful big house, and the house there's a curse, and she goes to live there. Her best friend ends up coming to live with her, and yeah, it's just this story of like found family. They're trying to work out the mystery. They want to stop this curse. That's all to do with her bloodline and the brides. That's what it's called, the Lost Bride trilogy. And it's not anything amazing, but I'm just really enjoying it, and I want to see where we end up. And I just love the characters, and I love all the side characters, and I love the little romances that are built in, and the community feel to it. I just love it. So I had to give that a shout out. This Little Christmas middle grade that I read, I gave this one a 4 stars, really enjoyed it. This is by Catherine Doyle. It's called The Miracle on Ebenezer Street. This was really funny, really heartwarming. And I had a really good time. And we also, again, it does also follow elements of grief as well. But I had a really good time. And this is also, funnily enough, by Catherine Doyle, that wrote The Dagger and the Flame, which I gave 5 stars. So that was really a really lovely one. I would highly recommend that around the Christmas time, especially if you've got young kids or you're a big kid at heart. And then the final one that I wanted to mention is Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I really loved it. I can't wait to read more in this series, and I've also got her other series, Queen's Cove. But yeah, that's everything. Those are my honourable mentions that didn't quite make it to 5 stars, but I really thoroughly enjoyed and would highly recommend. I'm quickly now going to go through my goals for 2025, and then we're going to wrap this up. So my reading goal for 2025, I've decided to set it at 120 books. So that's 10 more than last year's one. I just want to kind of keep pushing and seeing if I can do it. My next goal obviously is going to be to actually finish all of the books that I put on my 25 books to read in 2025. I would like to do all of them. So that's another one of my goals. I want to finish as many of my self-destruct books. So last year in June, I did a video. These 26 books will self-destruct in 12 months. So I have until June of 2025 to read as many as I can. Otherwise, they're just going to be unhauled. As it stands currently, I have 23 books left on left on that list. I've read 1 and I've unhauled 2. So I still have 23 to read, and I've got 6 months to do that in. So I better get cracking. My next goal is to continue my book buying ban. Obviously I made a really good dent into my physical TBR in 2024, but obviously it kind of wasn't, because I also added quite a few. So I don't want to buy any books this year. I have 2 books that I've added, or that I need to add. So I know I said my TBR total was 273, but I need to add in, this was gifted to me. This is Sally's Lament, A Twisted Tale by Mari Mancusi. And then I did buy myself Spectacular by Stephanie Garber. And I also bought myself towards the end of the year Throne of Secrets by Kerry Maniscalco. So what's that? So that's 276. That makes my TBR total, actually. And then I do have a Foyles gift card that I need to spend. But I already know what 2 books I want. So that's going to bring my total up to 278 for my physical TBR. So no books. No, I'm not buying any books. Those 2 from the gift card don't count. But other than that, my plan is to not, or my aim or my goal is to not buy any books for the whole of 2025. My next goal is to finish as many series as possible. Obviously, as I briefly went over, I started an awful lot of series in 2024. I was already in the middle of an awful lot of series in 2020, as I started 2024. So our series tracker is kind of out of control. So you'll see that. I'm going to do a separate video and I'm going to go through all of that. But I want to finish as many of those as possible. Ideally, now I know I've obviously set my reading goal to 120. This wouldn't be just over 120. I think probably like, I don't know exactly how many it is. Maybe about 130. But I want to get my TBR down to at least 150. My physical TBR down to 150. That is my goal for 2025. And read more physical books. So I read 80 physical books this year, and I need to beat that. I need to beat 80. So yeah, those are my goals for 2025. Hopefully I can stick to as many of them as possible. Hopefully it's going to be another fantastic reading year. What are some of your goals for 2025? And chat to me in the comments. Thank you so much if you've stayed with me till this point. That is all from me in this one, and I will see you in whatever comes next.